In the name of God, the story of a man who entrusted his beautiful wife to the judge. Back then, women didn't go out much from their homes. When people went on long trips, they used to leave their families with someone trustworthy like a judge. There was a merchant who recently married a lovely woman. At that time, it was normal for engagements to last 7 years. The merchant wanted to go to the Mecca, but he didn't want to leave his wife alone or divorce her. The merchant also loved his wife very much. He said, "Tomorrow I'll take you to the judge in the city and entrust you to him until I return from Mecca." The merchant's wife said, "Oh, husband, prepare my expenses for a year and give me a room. I will not leave the house at all. I will engage in worship in that room until you return." The merchant said, "Very well." The next day he prepared all his wife's expenses for a year. He went to the judge in the city and said to him, "Oh judge, I want to go to Mecca. I trust no one but you, because you are trustworthy and everyone knows you. They entrust everything to you. I also came to entrust my wife and my life to you until I return from Mecca." And judge said, "O merchant, there's no problem. Bring her to me. I will take care of your wife like my own wife and children until you return." The merchant assured the judge and said, "Judge, my wife is willing to stay with you in a house until I return." The judge agreed and immediately cleared out a room for merchant's wife in his house. The merchant brought his wife to the judge's house with expenses for a year and put her in the same room the judge had cleared. Then he went to the judge and said, "Now I entrust my wife to you. Give me a letter." The judge gave him a letter on which he wrote that on this date he accepted the merchant's wife to take care of her. He stamped and signed it and gave it to the merchant. The merchant bid farewell and left. Several months passed, and the merchant's wife did not leave her room. Day and night she was engaged in worship until one day the judge thought she might be dead and decided to check on her. When he went into her room, instead of seeing his wife, he saw a piece of the moon lighting up the room. He fell in love with her. He never left the room again. Whenever the judge approached her, she moved away. The judge said to her, "You must become my wife." She replied, "I swore to my husband not to betray him. I do not consider anyone alive except him." The judge insisted she had to be with him. "These words do not make sense. You must be with me." She said, "It seems impossible." The judge said, "I will torture you until you agree." She replied, "Do whatever you want. I won't do this. I fear no one but my God. I fear only Him." He took a whip to beat the woman, but still she didn't agree. The judge had a secret underground dungeon in his house. It was so well hidden that nobody could see it. He had a small iron door where he would sit. One day, when only a small child was at home, he took the merchant's wife to the underground dungeon and locked her up. The judge thought with himself, "This kid will not figure out anything." No one knew who was in that underground dungeon, but the judge brought her a piece of bread every other day. The merchant's wife endured all the judge's torture and did not forget God's remembrance for a moment, always worshipping in that underground basement. The judge was in conflict with the merchant's wife. When someone brought news to the judge that a prostitute has died, and here the way was open for the judge. Immediately a large deed was written stating that the wife of the certain merchant, whom he had entrusted to him on a certain day, had died. Then he took the deed to the people and got everyone's signature and a seal. 8 months later, the merchant returned from his trip. After 3 days, he went to the judge's house and showed him his letter. He said, "Mr. Judge, I am here for my wife. This is also a letter that you gave me." The judge brought the same deed that he had obtained signatures and stamps from the people, and said to the merchant, "I offer my condolences to you. Your wife is dead. If you think I am lying, here is the signatures. Go ask from them." The merchant got upset, went around asking, and everyone confirmed, "Yes, your wife is dead." The merchant could not believe it, so he went to the king to complain. The king called the judge to his presence and asked him what has been happened to the merchant's wife. The judge brought out the deed and showed it to the king, saying, "Here is the stamps and signatures. His wife is dead." The king said, "Well, so many signatures cannot be fake. She's dead." It's worth mentioning that the kings of ancient times were said to be night wanderers, meaning they would wear disguises and all clothes at night, mingling among the people, and no one recognized them. On one of those nights, the king went to a gambling den. He stood at the door of the gambling den, and people didn't recognize him. They thought he was just a passerby until someone said to him, "Brother, why are you standing at the door? Come in, sit with us." They suggested different type of games, but finally all of them agreed with the final game. The bold man became the king of the game. At that moment, someone jokingly said to him, "Don't be like the king who believed the forged signature and seal of the judge." When the king heard this, he wondered if it was true. The next day, the king ordered his servants to bring that bold man to him. The servants went and brought the bold man to the king. The king asked the bold man, "Last night, while your friends were playing in a gambling den, why did your friend told you, 'Don't let your kingdom be like that kingdom that believed the judge's seal'?" The bold man said to himself, "Whether I say it or not, I will lose my head." Then the king asked, "Why aren't you responding?" The bold man said, "Oh king, if I speak a word, will you not command them to beat me?" King replied, "No, why should I give such a command?" The bold man said, "King, I want one thing from you." The king asked, "What do you want?" "Whatever it is, tell me, and I will give it to you." The bold man said, "King, I want you to put your crown on my head for just one day, so that I can show you and the people what I know." The king agreed. Immediately the king called his minister and said, "For one day I will put my crown on the bold man's head, so that he can show us what he knows and reveal the truth." Everyone agreed and said, "Let the bold man be king for one day, and let's see what he does." Then the king put the crown on the bold man's head. The bold man didn't hesitate. He immediately ordered to call the judge of the city and those who had signed and sealed the deed, and the merchant. Then they went to the judge's house. He gathered everyone in the judge's house and asked, "Where is the merchant's wife?" They all said, "We don't know. We haven't seen the merchant's wife at all." The bold man expelled all from the judge's house, and then went and brought the little child who was at home that day, and asked him. The child didn't answer. The bold man coaxed and played with him, gave him some candies and toys. Again he asked the child, "Dear child, now tell me, where is the merchant's wife?" The child finally revealed where the judge had hidden the merchant's wife. They went to the basement. The child immediately picked up the post on which the judge was sitting, opened the basement door, and the bold man brought out the merchant's wife from the basement. Seeing the poor woman who had endured so much suffering and torture from the judge and became so weak. Then they took the merchant's wife back to the palace. The bold man questioned the merchant's wife about the whole situation. The merchant's wife told him everything the judge had done. The bold man then brought all those who had signed and sealed the deed for the judge and asked them, "Why did you sign the deed unlawfully? Did you see that the merchant's wife was dead?" They all swore and said, "We didn't know if the merchant's wife was dead or not." The bold man said, "Then why did you sign it?" They said, "The judge forced us." Then the bold man took the merchant's wife to the judge and said, "This is the merchant's wife. Now, what do you say?" The judge bowed his head, and the bold man ordered the judge to be hanged at the crossroad. Then he imprisoned all those who had signed and sealed the deed unlawfully and given false testimony. And he put the royal crown back on the king's head with two polite hands, and said, "I don't want anything else, because I saved the innocent woman's life." Thanks for listening to the whole story. Stay tuned for more stories and support us with your likes and comments. We would be happy if you introduce our channel to your friends. See you in the next video.